Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your host, Kaylee here, and you are tuning in to episode 113. This week is a busy week over here because I am traveling to Omaha, Nebraska for the College World Series and a baseball tournament for Cooper, my 13-year-old. And then from there, I will be going to spend a VIP day with one of our year 2 Pop Leadership Academy members in Texas, which I cannot wait for. And also because we as a company have been in an active hiring season. It also happens to be a very lively team building year for so many of our incredible Academy clients. And today I want to flip the script in a very loving and supportive way for you business owners out there who are responsible for supporting a significant number of employees. And also for those of you who are thinking about bringing on a manager to oversee staff management and your day-to-day operations. I've shared on the podcast in previous episodes that shortly after I left my corporate director role for one of the world's largest aesthetic medical device companies, I partnered up with a board-certified plastic surgeon to help him build his practice by stepping into a profit share arrangement and assuming a managing director role. And during this time period, I really embraced the gaps and opportunities to help bring many of the key principles of management to his business that I had learned through organizational training programs, and also combined with my doctorate in life experience, I'll say. And I learned so much through this experience, particularly having been trained and cultivated for leadership through formal programs with companies like Bayer Healthcare, the first organization who employed me directly out of college. And so working for a startup founder who is a brilliant physician, but a novice at business building really helped me realize the value of having someone in the practice who can both have the foresight of the vision of the company, but more importantly, tie that vision back to the day-to-day realities of running the business. And so often a business owner wears so many hats. She's built her business doing brilliant one-on-one work with her patients. She's focused on clinical outcomes, on the client experience, and developing her brand. And because of this, the management side of things tends to get overlooked. And not because it isn't important, but typically because the initial team members who are brought into a young business are usually multitasking or multi-rolling, as we call it in our academy. And staying in lanes is not necessarily desirable right off the bat. But as the business continues to advance, its primary roles, systems, structures, and processes are actually the key factor that will allow a founder to experience autonomy and flexibility in their business. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, but it's fact. I'll give an example. We worked a couple years ago with a nurse practitioner who had a very rapidly growing business. And within 2 years of opening, she found herself with fully booked schedule and began hiring additional providers to take on responsibility for delivery of certain services within her business. And as she began to bring on more team, she found it to become more and more challenging to carve out the time to train each provider in a way that built their credibility. And she found that patients would call and then continue to ask for her and only her. And she would attempt to delegate laser services and some basic Botox treatments, but the more complex treatments still required her to be spending time in consultations with every new patient. On top of that, running the business on the back end was becoming an evening and weekend job as the administrative tasks and the measurement of activities began to take on a life of their own. Can you relate? It was truly time to hire a manager to help her create systems in her business, to handle the office management, inventory, team meetings, schedule, and provider training plan. And this kind of support would help free up time for her to begin to transition from provider to CEO in her business, to enjoy the specific aspects of patient care that truly fuel her and develop her team members in a way that would provide her the trust and confidence that her team members would perpetuate that elite standard of care that she would require on behalf of her business. But what happens here is now we have a founder with a toddler-aged business that is growing quickly, while at the same time is strapped for cash flow as she's investing in team and new devices and inventory, training, marketing, and automation. And hiring an expensive business manager can't provide a direct line to earned revenue for the business. And so it just looks like a big fat cost. And when I say big and fat, you'll get what you pay for when it comes to hiring a practice manager. So if you're looking for someone to essentially clone you as an administrator of your business, you really need to think about who that person is. And not every business has the complexities that require a six-figure manager. But please keep in mind that you will need to make an investment into that employee either in time or in money. So if you believe the value of your time is worth more than what you'll be paying them, you might consider that when you're going to the hiring table. For example, if you're planning to pay an employee $20 per hour and train them on how to grow into a manager role in your business, but your time is worth $400 per hour, you may want to consider paying $35 for an employee who will save you hundreds of hours of development time. And I mention this because I see us so often overlook and underestimate the value of a strong practice manager in general. And I think that is often the case in our industry because let's be real, you've spent years and years and years perfecting your craft as a provider, and running a business in many cases just becomes a necessary evil. And every now and then I come across a practice manager who is an absolute blessing from God. I mean, they are like the real deal, and their boss, their business owner, has no clue how valuable she is. Or maybe her owner knows how lucky she is to have such an amazing practice manager, but it's not supporting her in a way that her manager needs in order to optimize her impact in the business. And that's what I really want to illustrate for you today. As a former managing director who experienced this in my partnership and as an advisor to both business owners and practice managers around the country, I feel it's important to understand the perspective of your manager, who is leading a team of people and is responsible for directing them in step with your needs, your vision, and your approval. This leader is a very important and very dynamic role that needs more of your support than you may know, and in ways that you may not have even considered. Now, I've shared statistics in the past about why employees leave their employers. Number one being lack of appreciation. And you may be in the camp of full-on doting on your practice manager or any employee for that matter, and simply tune out when you hear stats like these. A salaried worker stays with their current employer for an average 4.6 years, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And here are the next 5 reasons employees leave a company besides not feeling appreciated. They don't feel that there's stability in the business. They don't see a future for themselves in the business. There's a lack of work-life balance, poor management, or poor workplace culture. Many times when an employee is disgruntled and leaves, they say it's because of a better offer or a higher salary. But in reality, they wouldn't be looking for another opportunity if they had the joy in their current workplace and relationship with their employer to have an open communication about their needs, financial or not. And that's sort of the point. Being a great boss is not rocket science, but it takes showing up with intention, and it takes more than a big fat paycheck. And today I want to walk you through a practice manager optimization checklist to help you strategize how you might be able to show up for your practice manager as a better leader, to optimize their productivity, to fuel them with your support, and to inject fire in their belly to inspire them to radiate that same kind of passion into each and every team member. Now, this checklist isn't exhaustive, but it's a few points that are front of mind for me and was collaboratively developed with our practice manager clients. So I hope it helps stimulate some thought for you around some of the ways you can expand upon your relationship with your incredible practice manager. Number 1 is have their back. Many times we work with practice managers and they'll share privately with us that they feel unsupported in the management arena. And I get it. Provider owners are often dedicated to the patient experience and the day-to-day nuances related to their specific role in the business, and they overlook their role as the ultimate leader of the vision. Can you relate? Yesterday, someone told me, I'm so busy in the treatment room all of the time, I barely have time to answer questions that my team brings to me. Maybe you've hired a manager to be the enforcer of the rules so you don't have to get involved in the micromanagement or the management details. But there's really a balance here. Your team needs to know that your manager is a direct extension of you, that you support your manager in every decision, rule, directive, idea that is disseminated to the team. We had a client who made a decision to enforce masks during COVID, and her practice manager was mask policing everyone in the practice, but the owner was not following her own rules. She would go in her room and take her mask off where she was like, oh, no one would notice. But of course, everyone knew what was going on. So here she was essentially putting her manager in a very tough spot by requiring her to enforce agreed upon rules so that the team would abide by them. But their owner, the ultimate leader of the business, was passively telling the team that that rule wasn't important. If you're asking your manager to enforce a rule in your business, show up for that manager like you're in full partnership with them and be an example. Have their back every single time. Number 2, be there for important meetings. And listen, I get it. You hired a manager so you wouldn't have to run every meeting and be at every little sit down and lunch and learn, and you don't. But if your manager needs your presence to reinforce the value of what she is sharing with the team, be there and proactively ask ahead of time how you can support. A couple years ago, we had a practice manager client who had created a new patient intake process for the entire team of 15 employees to begin implementing in the practice. And this was a gorgeous process that would directly impact the patient care plan throughout every division of the practice and really inform each aspect of their aesthetic journey. It was a big deal. And her boss, the business owner, was over the moon about this new tool. But when it came time to roll this out to the team, the boss couldn't make the meeting, and it signaled to the team that it was a directive via the manager, but not a priority agenda via the actual boss. So adoption was average at best. Instead, had the owner been even just sitting in the room and nodding or verbally reinforcing the importance of this tool, imagine how much more impactful that could have been in terms of rolling out an adoption of this incredible tool. Number 3, conduct consistent performance reviews for your manager. So think about your position as a business owner. With the exception of your business coach, right? There's no one checking in on you, helping you stay accountable to your goals, applauding your wins, and challenging you to grow. That's the person you need to be for your practice manager. Don't just hand over the reins and assume everything is handled. It probably is, but we're all human and we need a routine reinforcement. As mentioned in my statistics a few minutes ago, remember that the 2 of the top 5 reasons employees seek other opportunities is that they don't see a growth runway for themselves, right? Lack of future, and also a lack of management. Great employees in particular seldom get the consistent feedback loop of milestone setting, investment in their growth, and feedback for their accomplishments because our expectations of them as an owner, right? They're an incredible employee, so our expectations of them are so high. If you can't be that person for them, you and your manager may consider coming to work with us in our POP Leadership Academy, where you can learn the skills and create the habits for open, consistent, and healthy communication and feedback with each other. Number 4, praise the good with the bad. I feel like managers do this so well. They have difficult conversations with employees in productive ways. But owners tend to casualize their communication with their managers, meaning every meeting is a stand-up chat or a text exchange or a venting session versus a formalized sit-down meeting where there's focus on performance. And because of this, we often only think of a meeting with our manager when there's a fire drill to run. And because of that, our manager is hearing more of the negative than the positive. And look, it's rarely intentional. You're probably at home thinking how incredible your employee is. And that's more my point here. Make it intentional to sit down and celebrate the small wins, the expected things, because those are the little things that will compound into big satisfaction and feelings of appreciation. And finally, number 5, manage your micromanagement. This final point was suggested to me during a one-on-one coaching call with one of our year 2 practice managers in our POP Leadership Academy. She told a story about an experience with a previous employer who was always up in her business when it came to the validity and accuracy of numbers in the business. And bottom line was her boss was insecure about her own ability to track data and make informed decisions based on the results of that data. And so she constantly micromanaged the process of inputting and exporting data. And the bottom line is, if you're going to micromanage, meaning be involved in every single detailed step of the process, then you might ask yourself, why are you even delegating that responsibility? Micromanagement stems from one of two problems. A, trust that your employee is doing what they say they are. And B, competency, meaning is that employee even capable of doing the job you're asking of them? If you're micromanaging, manage it by asking yourself which one of these is the problem and address it. Is it a trust issue or a competency issue? Leader, business ownership is not easy. And if you're like me, you're doing the best freaking job you can every single day, but you're human. You make mistakes, and you didn't wake up knowing how to manage a team, and you certainly didn't wake up knowing how to manage a manager managing a team. It takes practice, refinement, and intentional polishing. And if you don't have a manager yet, I might ask why. When are you planning to hire a manager? Do you believe the management of your business is best achieved by you as the owner, as the provider? How are you investing in developing your management skills? Does your business need growth? Do you need growth? Remember that making big fat moves in your business requires big fat risks and big fat investments. But knowing your numbers, your plan, and your potential has to come first. And you can achieve so much by just focusing on the basics, the intangibles, the thank yous, the communication, the relationship, and the appreciation. If you are scaling up, if you're looking for support, if you're looking for the tools to prepare yourself and your business to scale, you can jump into our summer class of Confidence to Scale. Doors officially close on June 30th, but registration is open right now. And in the 6 weeks program, you will learn how to prepare the soil and plant the seeds to grow a business that is able to self-sustain with a manager, with you as a well-directioned CEO. We have now certified 33 incredible aesthetic providers on our CTS business growth framework. And since taking this program, ambitious and visionary and in-demand aesthetic injectors and providers just like you have learned the framework that will allow them to expand to multiple new locations, hire passionate, competent, loyal team members, develop a training process to onboard new employees quickly, create and market their own proprietary methods, identify major gaps in their market that only they can fill, design virtual and in-person memberships, courses, and training programs that make them a cash reserve that covers their monthly expenses. It's pretty incredible. And these kinds of results, they don't happen by accident. But I'll tell you, in 6 short weeks, I have seen these providers powerfully recalibrate the vision of their company. And you can do that too. And prepare your people plan so that you can too take advantage of growth milestones like these. And P.S., if you're taking a long vacation this summer, this program is delivered via a private podcast so you can listen while you're on the go, on the airplane, laying on a beach, relaxing in the wilderness while your mind is free and creativity is flowing. So don't wait. Jump into this session. Head to klcconsultants.com/scale, or you can set up a chat with me and my team to talk about your growth goals and decide if this is the right fit for you. Okay, leader, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Fierce Factor. It is my goal to spend every single Monday morning with you, helping you get dialed in for an amazing week. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review and share it on social so we can all take advantage of personal and professional growth as a collective. Have an amazing day, leader, and I will see you next week. Wait, before you go, hey, if you're vibing with this conversation and you want to join me on my mission to help 100 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year, or leader, maybe you want to become one of them, head over to Facebook and join our free community, The Fierce Factor Society. Over there, we're taking this conversation to an elevated level. Get access to resource guides, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me, my expert team, and of course, a society of fierce women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetic wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to Facebook and search the Fierce Factor Society. See you there, goddess.